plenty of time for us to have a conversation at the end as well, so you can share some thoughts and ask some questions then. So who we are, so if you've not heard about Young Lives versus Cancer, so we're a UK-based charity and we're here to make sure children and young people with cancer get the right support at the right time. So we do this through tailored psychosocial support and by making their voices and unique needs heard and understood. We believe they should have the same opportunities as everybody else. So what does micro-volunteering mean at Young Lives versus Cancer? So a micro-volunteering opportunity is a short-term, low-commitment, easy to access and easy to complete opportunity to give your time, skills and effort to do something that contributes to the goals of Young Lives versus Cancer. So that might be different for other organisations. You might have a slightly different take on it. For us, it's something that is kind of one-off. We don't expect any commitment, but hopefully people do want to do more for us in the future. So volunteers are part of our one team. So our value at Young Lives versus Cancer is one team. So from researchers to grant writers to Christmas card signers to bucket collectors, cheerers, video editors, volunteers give their time and specialist skills in every kind of way to help us. So we recognise that our micro volunteers are an incredibly invaluable resource. So whether they give an hour of their time or they dedicate 30 years to our charity in one way or another, we know that someone giving a short snippet of their time is just as valuable. So micro-volunteering enables us to use people's time and skills. Skills is the thing that I really want to focus on as well. We found that to be really, really popular in our micro-volunteering offer. And this brings us closer to our fundraising target, ultimately. So it's all been about testing and trialing and integrating volunteers into every part of our work. So we're not quite there yet, and I'll talk a little bit about that later, but we definitely want micro-volunteering to be that stepping stone across the organisation to making sure that volunteers are an integral part of everything that we do. It helps us to expand our networks as well, so it brings more people into the organisation. We definitely, sorry, it's gone really sunny here. We definitely need more people to come on board with us and to join our cause to enable us to reach our fundraising target every single year. So by inviting micro volunteers in, that enables them to go on and perhaps do something for us in the future in another part of the organisation, and inevitably and hopefully maybe they will leave a legacy, and that is overall the big goal here. For us, we want micro volunteering to be business as usual at our organisation. We're not quite there yet, but that is the goal. We want people to think when they are coming up with something that they think volunteer. Can a volunteer be involved? Can we turn this into a micro volunteering opportunity? Like I said, we have dreams to have opportunities across the organisation, so not just within our fundraising teams, but within our service delivery, within our office-based teams. We want to make sure this is an integral part. And it's absolutely a springboard for showcasing how impactful volunteering can be across our work as well. So micro-volunteering for me is that happy mix in between a traditional volunteering role, so the one that perhaps all of you have in your organisations, where someone will sign up and be dedicated and committed to the cause for quite some time, and the in between that of a volunteer opportunity or task. We want our micro-volunteers, although they're only giving a short snippet of their time, to feel part of a team. Like I mentioned before, they've got absolutely no commitment to carrying on their volunteering after the one task that they've signed up to, but we want them to feel like they want to be a part of it, they want to give more, they want to log back onto the system and see what other new and exciting volunteer opportunities are on board, and to feel part of our community as well. That's why a lot of people get involved in volunteering, right? They want to feel part of a community, they want to contribute to something that's bigger than themselves. And for us, that's what micro volunteering is about. It's not just that one-off task. It's about joining a team. So the types of opportunity that we have on our micro volunteering portal, so we class these as level 2 opportunities, and for most of you that will mean nothing at all, but essentially these are opportunities that need no references, but only a criminal records declaration. So a tick box to say that they have no criminal convictions. So essentially they're low risk opportunities and they require no more than a short brief or induction. And again, something that is really meaningful, impactful. Just because it's a micro volunteering opportunity doesn't mean that we're asking someone to make the teas and coffees in the office. It's not about that. It's about doing something that's really, really worthwhile and contributing towards our goals. So we have different levels of opportunity across the organisation, and these ones that fall on the lower risk end. But we have so many different opportunities, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. So where did we start? So micro volunteering isn't 100% new to us at Young Lives versus Cancer. We've been doing it for a really long time. We've just not packaged it up in this way before. So we've had our flagship bucket collection weekends and different parts across the organisation where we've asked people to give an hour or two of their time to help us fundraise. So we were toying with this notion of bringing all of these people that had done something for us before or pledged to do a bucket collection for us into what we call an action team before World Cancer Day in 2020. So we were all geared up to run World Cancer Day. So that's on the 4th of February. Get people signed up to these bucket collections and then continue them on their journey of micro volunteering after they had given their time to do that. The campaign went really, really well. We saw the most volunteers complete a mass participation action for us that we'd seen across the organisation before. So that was really amazing. We had over 800 volunteers complete a bucket collection over 250 of our Morrison's supermarket stores. We got loads of people, really high percentage of people, I can't remember off the top of my head, sign up to join our action team, where we were going to then send them ongoing micro volunteering opportunities that they might want to sign up to in the future. Then obviously the pandemic hit and it all just went to pot, basically. We couldn't do anything more and it all sort of stopped there. But what was really key in that, and me and my old head of volunteering, Lauren, we kept talking and saying, we don't want to lose this opportunity. We want to keep hold of this and grasp how people volunteered in the pandemic. We saw people do really important, meaningful things during that time. And really all they had to do was say yes. I think as an organisation, we've been so risk averse in the past. We need our volunteers to, you know, go through all of this red tape just to volunteer with us. And what we wanted to take from the pandemic is how can we make this more efficient? How can we make this easier for our volunteers so they can do things that are meaningful and impactful without all of the procedure and process surrounding it? So in May 2023, we decided to launch again with micro volunteering. We were going to do it. We were going to make a big push so that in September, Childhood Cancer Awareness Month 2023, we could have this mass participation micro volunteering event again. So in June 2023, we launched our micro volunteering platform where all of the opportunities across the organisation would be hosted in one space and people could sign up based on the date or the time or the location that they found themselves in. They could find an opportunity that suited them. So our platform looks a little bit like this, and I'm sure after the presentation, Mushka will send the links and everything across, as well as my contact details. So there's a little bit, I'm going to jump into our website here and show you a little bit around. So this is our website, so you can click on and find an opportunity, like I said, by the county, city, the keyword or the date, and we have all of our opportunities listed here. So we have things like speaker opportunities finder, so finding talks for our speaker volunteers in their local community, fundraising research, raffle prize sourcing. Who doesn't need a raffle prize? We all need them all of the time. And as do all of our supporters. So having someone there to help source all of those and give their time to find those in their local community for 1 or 2 hours is extremely helpful for us. We also have things like our London Marathon cheerpoint. Obviously, that's coming up really, really soon in April. So we have all of our cheerpoints on here. So that gives us a really nice calendar throughout the year of all our sporting and challenging events as well. Again, this is something that we've done before. We have had cheerpoints before. We have had people just sign up and give their time for 1 or 2 hours to come and do that, make people feel good. When I know how it feels running a marathon, when you get to mile 20 and you can't believe you've got another 6 miles to go, those cheer points really, really do help. But just putting them all in one place and having them there so people can see those opportunities throughout the year, we've found to be so, so helpful. And it's been, yeah, just a stepping stone of change for us. So when someone wants to register, they just click through. And like I said, they just have to input a really short amount of info. And once they hit confirm, off they go. They get a confirmation email. From then, their volunteer manager will be in touch to give them a really short induction or brief. For some of our opportunities, they get that information in their confirmation email. So it's to their hands, ready to go. We know that's really, really important for us with micro volunteering, that people get the information to hand really, really quickly. You don't want to sort of lose people's momentum that they've wanted to give an hour, but then almost have to wait 3 weeks to find out what they're going to be doing. So a lot of our opportunities now have that automated response, all of the information that they need to know, with lots of links to click through so they can find all the resources or information they need. For some of our opportunities, they will hear from a volunteer manager, but they don't necessarily need to, because all of the information will be in that email, including templates, Excel documents to be able to start their research. So they might be signing up for this on the bus and they'll be able to complete it by the time they get to their destination, which is really, really exciting. It means people can do things really, really quickly. I'm just going to try and flick back to my presentation. 1 second. Can't get the toolbar, is hiding my presentation. Back. So like I said, some of the roles that we've had have been really exciting and across the organisation. So we have home from homes across the UK. So these are places to stay for our families of children or young people affected by cancer, just a slip or walk away from their local hospital. So have these locations across the UK. So some of our micro volunteering opportunities are based there. One of these was at Sam's house, where it was a home decorating opportunity, and we actually reserved this for one of our corporate partners. And so all they had to do, they sent it out to their the corporate partner, and anyone that was interested could sign up here. And that was sort of a ring fence opportunity for them. So we're able to password protect some of our opportunities then, which is really exciting and makes it niche and nice for them. We've talked a little bit about the speaker opportunities finder, but one of our opportunities, the grants research opportunity that we've had, works really nicely hand in hand with one of our traditional volunteer roles as well. So we have some volunteers in the organisation who write our applications for grants and trusts. This micro volunteering role supports that. So they will go out and find trusts in their local community. So they perhaps be tasked in finding 20 local trusts to them, and then the other volunteer will take that research from them and they will write the applications on their behalf. So again, it's a nice stepping stone opportunity for someone that might be interested in actually becoming a grants writer and might want it as a career. They're stepping into it as micro volunteering, getting a bit of a taster. They can then go on to be a more traditional grants writing volunteer. Then maybe it's a nice career path as well. It gives people that really, really nice taster. And I touched on this before, but the skilled opportunities for us have become really, really popular. So we've had things like graphic designers, video editors, copywriters, things that we've not really explored in the past when it comes to volunteering, but just having an hour or two of someone's time to look over this, to create a graphic that perhaps we couldn't have done in the time frame that we needed to, with everything else that we have stacked up in our brand portfolio. It's been really exciting to get these skilled opportunities. And I will say the skilled opportunities are the ones that just fly off the shelf really, really quickly, which is really exciting. So a bit about stakeholder management and how we got there. So we recruited a team, I've put if, but I mean of, micro volunteering reps within our regional fundraising team. This was essentially to maintain momentum for the project. So our regional fundraising team have been really established in volunteering. They get it. They work with volunteers day in, day out. So it felt like the right kind of team to pilot this opportunity with. And we knew that they'd have really loads of great ideas, loads of great micro volunteering ideas, as well as supplementing that with the more traditional things like bucket collections that they've always done, and our cheer points as well. So it gave us a nice kind of suite to start with. And we've also business partnered with key teams across the organisation to create roles, which has been really nice. So having showcased this, having run this, we have now had lots of teams come to the volunteering team to talk about how can they get a piece of the pie, how can they create a micro volunteering opportunity. With spotting opportunities in other areas of work and me being proactive in approaching people about this. So certain things like our campaigns team. So we have our campaigns team reaching out, asking people to sign petitions or write to their local member of parliament about key issues to do with children and young people with cancer. It's me reaching out to them and saying, you do realise this is volunteering. It is people giving their time, even if it's only for 2 minutes. And having that kind of thing on the portal as well gives people an opportunity to experience different things across the organisation. So some of our micro volunteers have been volunteering with us for a really long time, but they've chose to pick up volunteering in another area of the organisation that they might not have seen or been exposed to before. Things like campaigns where traditionally they've been really heavily involved in fundraising. So it gives our current volunteers an opportunity to do other things and make it really visible to them. And I think that's what's been really key and a big success for us, is that it's really transparent. Everyone can see what we've got going on when it comes to volunteering, and that applies to our current volunteers as well. So social media, so we have been running some social media ads as well. So during Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, we trialled a carousel advert. So this was really pivotal in recruiting a steady stream of new volunteers. We do have this kind of steady stream of volunteers throughout the year. When we don't have ads running, as soon as we turn them on, it starts to peak again and we just get a higher level and higher number of people recruited into the organisation. As soon as they're turned off, we go back to that lower steady stream of volunteers. So it's really interesting to see that that really does work for us. So we had a test and learn from this approach, and then we decided that we wanted to give this another go in the new year. So we did a New Year, New You campaign. New Year's always a great time to get volunteers involved, of course, and micro volunteering felt like it really fitted well with that, because everyone gives up their New Year's resolutions, don't they? So if we can grab people's attention in January and we can get them moving forward with some action really, really quickly, then that's great. They feel great about themselves. They might want to do something more. So this one, which was different to September, is that our fundraisers didn't have any targets to recruit volunteers. So it was kind of all on the volunteering team when it came to launching these adverts. And although we weren't as successful in terms of numbers, or in terms of the number of opportunities that we had live on our platform, we still saw a peak from having those adverts running. So that was really interesting for us. It showed us that actually having the ads and people having a micro volunteering target meant that we had the best results. But either way, it meant that we were still successful, and that as a central volunteering team, we can commit to doing that at several points throughout the year. So our next iteration of this will be in the big help out in June, which Mushka mentioned. So we'll be trialing that as well and getting people involved in that. So just a little bit of a preview of the kind of thing that we had on there. So we had different opportunities. So it gave people, when they were seeing this ad, a bit of a flavour of the kinds of things that they could get involved in Young Lives versus Cancer. We actually found that the advert that worked the best was the one, it was actually the Facebook story. More people clicked on that than any of these carousel bits. So we're going to work on that and increasing our visibility on stories in the future as well. So what have we learned so far? And a really lovely quote from one of our micro volunteers. So micro volunteering has been a great way for me to fit some volunteering into my busy lifestyle. I think that's what it's all about at the end of the day. It's giving people the opportunity to get involved in something when, you know, we've got work and kids and everything else going on. We all know the challenges of recruiting volunteers. This has really given us a new avenue to explore when it comes to recruitment. So our headline results, so when I pulled this, over 370 individual volunteers have registered to complete volunteering opportunities since we launched in August 2023. So this is kind of higher than the level of normal recruitment we have for our traditional volunteering roles. As part of their registration, we do ask them if they'd like to hear about that future micro volunteering opportunities, and that's sort of the action team thing I was talking about before. And we had a really high sign-up rate to that, so 73% of volunteers opted in to hear more, which is really exciting, meaning that we can contact all of these people again and talk to them about our future opportunities. We talked a little bit about the campaigns, but during Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, 72% of micro volunteers were completely new to the organisation. So it was definitely suggesting to us that it was a key recruitment campaign at Young Lives versus Cancer, but also a retention tool, like I was talking about, for those volunteers that we already had on board. So the key highlights for me, and again, another really nice quote. So I chose to volunteer for this as I want to support the great work you do, and I like writing Christmas cards. So basically, it's a win-win arrangement. So that's talking about, we had a Christmas card writing opportunity on the portal, and that was asking our volunteers to write Christmas cards to our supporters to say thank you for all their support throughout 2023. And so the highlights for me is this has been really action-led versus recruitment-led. I've been a development manager for a few years now, and we used to be really heavily focused on recruitment, targets around recruitment. How could we get more and more people in? And what we would find is we'd hit those targets, but were those people actually doing anything? Were they turning that recruitment into action? And this has been really action-led. Like I say, people can pretty much instantly get on with some of their volunteering opportunities. So they come in, they register, they do something, they either move on or they stick with us and they want to do something again in the future, which is really exciting. So very few of our volunteers that register don't actually do anything. The majority do. Again, it's a recruitment and a retention tool, and we've diversified our volunteering offer, meaning that our volunteer representation is wider, and we can offer more home-based and varied opportunities as well. There's so much potential within this for second action and connection to cause and network mapping. So like I spoke about before, people come into the organisation, do a micro volunteering opportunity, but they might move on and then go on to do a marathon, or they might hold their own bake sale. So it's another way to attract people into the organisation and support this cause. And then it's a step into parts of our organisation who haven't previously involved volunteers in their work. I think a lot of people internally feel like micro volunteering is easier, so they want to have more of a conversation with me. It's definitely not. It still involves a lot of work internally, but it just opens the door for that conversation as well. And, you know, if someone wants to put time in to have a cup of coffee and talk about volunteering with me, then that is brilliant. And if this is helping with that, then yeah, win-win for us. I just wanted to highlight a few of the popular opportunities that we have on the platform. So unsurprisingly, bucket collections are right at the top of the tree. We have loads of them here, and also our fundraisers have a really vested interest in making these a success because they raise them lots of money. So unsurprisingly, that one sits at the top. But I'm just going to pick out a couple of them. I mentioned the card writing opportunity from our volunteer quote earlier. This one to me was really, really interesting. We had a lot of volunteers sign up for this over Christmas, and a lot of them, it's not something that we've done before. So we saw this as a great recruitment tool. It was a really simple task. We could get them doing it really, really quickly, but it got loads of people interested. It was the highest click through on our ads. So whether it was the word Christmas, whether it was card writing, and people do like doing that, I don't know, but it meant that we got to talk to all these new people that we'd never spoken to before, which was really, really good. And our application writing one as well is really interesting to me. We did have some people actually write low-level applications for us. So for supermarkets, for token schemes, they actually went out and filled in those applications on our behalf. Our fundraisers want more and more of this all of the time, and they only have so many hours in the day. So to see so many volunteers want to come forward and do this on our behalf is really great, and it just means that we can raise more money in our local communities. So the opportunities that people said no to. So for all the ones that we did have people sign up to, of course, there are opportunities that people didn't sign up to. Bucket collections sitting at the top of the tree as well, purely because we have loads of opportunities. But it does show that, you know, just because we put them on the portal doesn't mean that we're going to get people to sign up. It's not a, you know, a quick fix to getting volunteers in or recruitment. we still need to work at it. We still need to push it. We still need to talk about these opportunities. So yeah, unsurprisingly, that one sits there. We did have some research opportunities that didn't get any take up, and from looking deeper into the data, those research opportunities are really, really specific. So we kind of gave our fundraisers, volunteer managers, free rein to put a lot of opportunities on the portal, and only a few we kind of weeded out, but for the most part they could put on what they wanted and what they needed to achieve. But I think those people that went really, really specific, either geographically or the type of task that we're offering, people maybe just didn't understand, they just didn't get it, and we found sort of a low uptake in those type of opportunities as well. And the other one I want to chat about is fundraising events. So we had some of our volunteer managers put fundraising events on there. So they wanted people to come up with their own fundraiser. They wanted people to kind of think about doing something in their own community. People didn't like it. People know where to find out about fundraising. I think if you're wanting volunteering, you want to volunteer and give your time. Yeah, they'll fundraise in other parts of the organization. So that was really, really interesting. So I think when it comes to looking at those opportunities in future, we're going to be a bit more questioning as a volunteer team. So things that we learn. So looking at these opportunities that volunteers say no to. So talked about the specific research opportunities, making sure that they're more national so that they can be applicable to all of our volunteer managers, not just ones in a specific county or a specific regions, keeping the opportunities really broad and wide ranging. Having always on opportunities is really good as well. And I'm going to talk about this in my next slide, but it's really important to have kind of those opportunities that are always there, national, people can pick up all the time. They've not got a distinct time frame. Thinking about our time spent centrally as a volunteer team as well. Like I said, just because it's micro volunteering doesn't mean it's easy and doesn't mean it's quick when it comes to setting these things up. So I think we need to be a bit smarter and delve into the data about which ones are most successful, and help our volunteer managers to understand that as well. And like I said, it's not a quick fix for them. And if there's no point putting it on the portal if we know as a volunteer team that it's not going to get any people signing up. And how can we be more efficient, essentially? How can we use that data to showcase what is working best for us? Skipping a bit far ahead. So the thing that I wanted to talk about is that micro volunteering is the beast that constantly needs feeding, constantly need to be putting these opportunities into the system, which is quite different from those more traditional volunteer roles. You kind of, for us as an organization anyway, we agreed on, in fundraising specifically, 5 roles that we had always on, and that hasn't changed for quite some time. So flip that on its head with micro volunteering, and it's something that we have to constantly chip away on. I constantly have to be going out to people asking, have you thought about this? Have you got any more opportunities that you want to add on there? And that is why having those always on opportunities is so key. So we've got a good base always. So things that we've agreed to do. So we're going to relaunch micro volunteering out to the organisation, and we've been doing that since our New Year, New You campaign. Running ideation sessions about micro volunteering with different teams to maintain that micro volunteering momentum with them. So thinking about the different avenues that we can work with them, things that would be helpful for us to get micro volunteers involved with in their teams, because some of the teams just don't know. They're really at a ground zero with this. They want to know, they want to think about different ideas and have the volunteering team help them with this. We're going to commit to running regular recruitment adverts as well to make sure that we do get that steady stream of volunteers coming through the door. And as always, improving our micro volunteering processes and helping us become more efficient. So that is the end of my presentation. I've just put some conversation starters up here that might help spark some of your questions, but if anyone wants to ask something specifically, then yeah, sort of now is your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Does someone want to ask a question or think of the conversation starters before I get to the questions in the chat? No. Okay, so we have quite a few questions going on in the chat. S. Pandor, I'm very new to volunteer recruitment as part of my community role, so this is really interesting, very early stages. Congrats. I suggest maybe joining our Facebook group, but we have quite a few posts about volunteer recruitment. Michelle, how do you engage and get commitment from so many volunteers over such a large scale? I think you kind of covered that in your presentation. But yeah, I think commitment. Do you have like, that's actually a good question about commitment with, with micro volunteering. Do people think, oh, it's just an hour? Do you have like a fall off rate of like people not coming or turning up? Do you have them?
Oh, yeah. So our attrition rate is really, really low for micro volunteering. I think because, like I was saying, with the action-led approach, they know what they're doing and they're signing up relatively within a short space of time that they remember to turn up as well. We're actually putting in a journey for our micro volunteers as well. So now they get their confirmation email and they get a message from their volunteer manager, but we're also going to be setting up reminders so that if they have signed up in the future, they don't forget that that is what they've committed to. In terms of their commitment, we, like I said, we don't expect them to do anything more than the one event that they've signed up for, but they will be getting communications regularly around other opportunities that they can sign up for in the future if they wish to. The key thing in this is they get assigned a volunteer manager who is kind of either local to them in their local community or within their field of work that they're volunteering in. So they've got that key contact. And that's always really helpful for us at Young Lives versus Cancer. It means our fundraisers are really good at making sure that they do touch base if that's what the volunteer wants them to do. So more often than not, they will come back and ask to do something again. And if they don't, they don't. That's fine. That's what this is geared up to do.
Yes. Okay, so this is a really interesting question because everything you put on, amazing, but someone asked, what size is your volunteering team to be able to invest so much time in developing and supporting these new initiatives? How much staff time is involved in setting up and supporting micro volunteering?
Sure. So essentially our volunteering team has 6 members. Well, apart from 2, we're a part-time team as well. So we work all across the week. Micro volunteering is my baby. So I kind of work on this a lot of the time. But in terms of like the wider team as well, like I say, they are, if someone's putting an opportunity on, it's their responsibility to look after those volunteers and manage them. So that takes up a chunk of their working week as well, of course, either coming up with the opportunity itself, providing the briefing documents. We centrally are an enabling team. We provide the function and the advice to be able to do that. But the expectation is then on the volunteer manager to then run that opportunity and make sure they've got all the equipment and everything that they need to be able to do that. Again, it's kind of like a lot of people have been doing these opportunities before, so it's very business as usual for some of our teams. It's just packaged in a different way that makes it more marketable and easier to access for our volunteers, importantly, whereas some teams will need a bit more investment, a bit more hand-holding to get them off the mark because it's just not their normal or their business as usual. I hope that answers your question.
That's really interesting. I think it's about also showing the value of micro volunteering, which you've shown with your data. So it's kind of more like, okay, we're investing this time because we see X return. So that's great. Louise, how do you track volunteer engagement over time, i.e. after they have done a micro opportunity, whether or not they go on to do more volunteering or become a supporter in another way? That's a really good point.
Yeah, so I recently pulled yesterday a piece of data that looks if they've repeated their micro volunteering support since we launched in August 2023, and we had about 45 volunteers who had repeated their support within that time frame. We're also looking at a piece of work mapping their second action across into different areas of the organisation as well. Our fundraisers are targeted on second action, so it's really important for them. So I don't have the data to hand, but it's something that we're looking to do going forward because it's really important for us to know if this is either them coming into micro volunteering has helped them move across the organisation, or whether we're getting people that are in the organisation in a different place move into micro volunteering. I think it works really nicely both ways.
Great. Chantal wants to know, do you gather EDI data for micro volunteers? Because I think you showed your form.
Yeah, we don't at present. With micro volunteering, we were really conscious that we didn't want to gather huge amounts of data. We wanted them to be able to just sign up to do their action and then that is it. We do find that the more questions that we add as we go in, the less people sign up and complete that journey. So we wanted to be really conscious that we're just asking them about their specific volunteering at this point. But we recognise that that's really, really important as well.
Yeah, and also I think, you know, after a while, you know, you can do a very short expression of interest form, and then later on you can always say, can you fill out an additional form? I don't know what the uptake
Yeah. And
yeah.
that's something we're looking at. So when, like many different platforms, you fill out the bulk of the data that you need to know to be able to complete that action, we're looking at having a secondary form that captures whether they're connected to cause. And by that, I mean whether they have ever been affected by childhood cancer themselves or their family in the past, because that's really useful information for us. So we're looking at iterating that and experimenting with, will people fill out that data after they filled in that initial part with us?
Yeah. That's really good. Heather, we've been talking about this as we offer many of these roles, but as you said, Collette, not packaged up in this way. We'd be interested to know in knowing what information you do collect as people sign up for these opportunities in comparison to the more traditional roles.
Yeah, so it's a little bit different, and by all means take a look at our website, and I'll make sure I send some links through as well. We do take different levels of data depending on what type of opportunity they've signed up for. So for our more traditional roles, we expect people to give us 2 professional references. If they can, if we get 1 professional reference back, then we will progress them forward. For our services led roles, we have them complete a CRB check, DBS check, as well. So it depends on where they're coming in or what the type of volunteering role in the organisation and the types of data that we collect. So there's different routes and different journeys.
Yeah, and then one from me actually. How much spend did you put on social media ads? Because it's all about like customer acquisition costs, like volunteer acquisition costs. Like how much does it cost you per volunteer, would you say?
Yeah, so we spent in September, we spent £1,000 on acquiring those volunteers. So I don't know the return on investment per volunteer, but the click rates were like in the tens of pence. So really, really good return on investment in terms of click through for us. Our social media team saw really high levels of engagement with our ads. So yeah, they were more than pleased to help facilitate us lead some more when it came to January as well.
That's
Yeah,
really
more than
good.
happy to share that.
I love any charity that invests in volunteers, because I think sometimes you kind of have to fight it a bit. So it's great that they put allocated money for you in the spend of social media. So that's really great. Pips asked a similar question about, do you have 2 separate application routes then for regular micro volunteers, which you've said.
Yeah, we do.
Rachel, hi Rachel, would be interested to hear any thoughts around, would be really interested to hear any thoughts around charities where the technology is a challenge. Your website looks amazing, goals. We are going through a huge technological shift at the moment, so I'll be interested to know, do you think micro volunteering programs are completely reliant on the tech website being there? Very good question, Rachel.
Yeah, so I've seen this kind of thing and iterated this kind of thing even before I was at Young Lives versus Cancer. I used to run a bucket collection. I know you've been talking about bucket collections in the chat as well, so hopefully that's all cleared up. And I worked at the air ambulance service as well. So we used to use a free program that collected people's data, mapped it all out for them. It wasn't, you couldn't search on county, but it worked for us. So I don't think it is heavily reliant. It doesn't mean it's not easier. I hold my hands up to that. It's been so much easier and clearer for us to have a system, and that's why we've invested in it. But it can definitely work without. It's just how and what your goals are around that, what you want to do. I mean, if you're thinking about doing it, obviously we have opportunities that run all year round, but you can have something just around one day and list all of your opportunities for that one day and try and experiment from there. It doesn't have to be this huge piece of work that spans across the year. You can really break it down. So yeah, I've seen it iterated different ways. We did have one year where we had no system at all and just a spreadsheet, and that was horrible. I will admit that. I will admit to that. But yeah, even just free software stuff that helps rota volunteers was really, really useful and made it easier ultimately for them to sign up. And that is always at the heart of what I'm doing, is thinking, why are people signing up? How can they sign up? Getting people through the door.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, I'm just going to plug Volunteero here, because
Yeah, of course.
I think it's great for micro volunteering, which is, you know, now the future. We're all talking about micro volunteering, about having a system in place. So it's interesting you mentioned air ambulance, because we've actually we have quite a few air ambulance charities now using Volunteero, because it's all about, you know, that push notification, very easy, click on the notification, sign up really easily, but also it's about capturing the data. The data afterwards, you know, you can customize the questions of how much money did you collect, was, you know, was there any issues, upload expenses if they need. So we're all about that, and we actually just launched loads of features today, and one of them was one that you mentioned, which is push notification reminders of that your shift is coming up, and then check in and check out. So definitely, you know, I'm always think investing in a good system, whether it's Volunteero or another, can definitely help, because I think a lot of people shy away from these kinds of volunteer roles because they're like, oh, it's just an hour. How much admin time do I have for just encouraging an hour volunteering, where it's the reoccurrence as well, if they have a really good experience. So yeah, that's just my little spiel on Volunteero and micro volunteering. Back to the questions, Louise said, do you find that the demographic data of micro versus traditional volunteers is similar or different? That's a good question.
So the majority of our volunteers, traditional micro, still fit in that sort of demographic of 55, age 55 plus for us. So that is the majority. However, for micro volunteering, we are finding a bigger proportion of our volunteers fit within that 25 to 40 age range. So we're definitely changing the demographic slightly, not completely, but slightly. We do wonder whether, because we heavily invest in Facebook advertising rather than any other platform, whether that is skewing, but we're just getting such a good return on investment at the moment. It makes sense for us to do that. So it's definitely something for us to experiment with in the future. The one thing that we did pick up from our ads that we ran in January is that 100% of our click-throughs were from females, which is, yeah, it's not surprising, but to have 100% is massive. So what can we do? Can we book that trend? Is Facebook just skewing that completely for us? So we're going to look at that in the future as well.
Definitely keep us updated, but I love a bit of data, so that's cool. Wendy asked, hi Wendy, I wondered how you deal with anyone who says yes to the disclosure question.
Sure. So we actually haven't had anyone say yes, so we haven't got to that yet. But if someone did, then it would definitely be a conversation with the volunteering team and the volunteer manager, depending on what they disclosed. It's definitely not a firm no. We would just have to have a discussion around what that involved and the types of activity that they were interested in.
Yeah,
thanks. I just wondered if it could be a bit of a barrier for somebody. I mean, I know you've had 370, so obviously, but having it there, unless you have a statement, I suppose, saying, you know, it won't necessarily stop you from volunteering.
Of course, it definitely can be seen as a barrier. Like even just asking the question can be off-putting for some people, can't it? But it's just our micro volunteering again is still in this way quite new to us, and to offer all of these different opportunities, it's one of our risk levels that we've just put in. Whether that will change in the future, it's kind of all up for discussion, but at the moment that just felt like one of the things that we could be doing to protect ourselves as a children and young people's organisation.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Collette.
Thank you. Thanks, Wendy.
Good question. Rachel, hello again. Would be interested to hear about the creative roles, like graphic designers. Are there certain prerequisites for people being able to do those opportunities? How do you communicate or provide feedback if they haven't met the original brief? I can imagine this could significantly impact on how people feel about wanting to do these tasks again, motivation to volunteer with you as an organization again. And in my head, I'm also thinking, you know, anyone in the graphic design team or in your marketing team are like, oh, maybe I don't want to work with a volunteer again if it was, you know, I had to shadow them a bit too much or take up too much.
Sure. It's a really, really good question, and it's something we're still working through, to be honest. But essentially it all comes back down to that volunteer manager experience and relationship with them, kind of like to build up a bit of a rapport with them before they go into any work. We find out about their experience. If there is something that we need that's really specific, we put that in the brief on our portal, so they will be able to see if they need a certain qualification or whatever, it will be there. So we can be that specific when it comes to things like that. Again, we get a brief or an induction from our brand team that we will send to these people as well, so they know exactly kind of what they're looking for. Yeah, it definitely could have an impact on how they feel and their motivations if they're not hitting the brief, but hopefully that relationship with their volunteer manager and that back and forth of feedback will help with that. This might be one of those opportunities that's a bit more than 1 to 2 hours. It could be it's spanning over a week, so there's room for conversation around the kind of things that they're producing. Hope that answers your question, Rachel.
Like what Jenny just commented, this ties in with our future session of having difficult conversations with volunteers, and how you go about it, which we're very excited. Jenny, I think you missed our intro where I plugged your lunch and learn, which we're very excited about.
Oh no, I'm so sorry. My internet has been terrible today. I've been like disappearing. I've loved what I've heard, Collette, but I keep like dipping in and out a little bit. So.
We're happy to have you here, Jenny, and we did say we're very excited about that lunch and learn, which is all about difficult conversations and how we handle it. From our #1 Facebook group supporter. Have you used Instagram to change your demographic, maybe because you did mention about Facebook?
Yeah, so initially in Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in September, we did both Facebook and Instagram. The Facebook ads just performed, and we pushed all of our investment into Facebook because it was just performing so much better. So it's definitely something we want to try again in future, but when, you know, Mushka, you said budget is so tight and investment in volunteering doesn't come around very often, we wanted to make sure at this early stage we were getting the best return on investment initially.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And Hannah asked, how do you track who has completed what? Do volunteers self-report on completion?
So again, coming back to that volunteer manager relationship, they will share that with their volunteer manager and what they've done. Like I said, some people, very few people don't complete anything, and we don't get a response back from them, but most of the time we will have this back and forth and they will complete it. And I've known micro volunteers to share their work on research directly to their volunteer manager and then want to do more again. So, and then the journey kind of goes on with them. So yeah, it all comes down to their volunteer manager for us.
Yeah, and I think obviously, you know, with volunteer and our self-report function, straight after the volunteer does their role, each role, they can fill in a report very like straight from their phone. And I think it's nice to put, like, especially if you're spending money on ads, how much money like that volunteer has bought you. Like if they've done a grant, if they've searched for a grant, how much did that grant bring you? And that volunteer kind of putting like a number of how much, especially fundraising volunteers as well, you know, how much they collected their buckets. I think that's it for questions. Do we have anything anyone else wants to share in the group? We are thinking for the next one of our future sessions, someone in our Facebook group did speak about marketing. So we're thinking of going to do a Canva marketing class. If anyone has any experience on doing really cool volunteer posters or volunteer artwork, if anyone wants to do, that's a future speaker we're looking at. And anything else that anyone's interested in learning about, we're always open to hearing for more discussions. Collette, thank you so much for that. That was really, really interesting. I learned a lot, so thank you. And we will share this recording and any other follow-up links to your page. I want to go onto it and maybe find something for myself if it's something. And I love that what you said is like even just signing a campaign, that is volunteering. So really getting people more in the mindset of volunteering and how easy it is. So this has been really, really helpful. And thank you everyone for joining, and we will keep you informed on any new sessions. So thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it. And I've learned so much from all of your questions too. It's definitely got me thinking. So thank you.
Right. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.